Hello everyone, welcome to today's Safetica One webinar focused on major product improvements in 2022. I'm Jan Mazal, Product Marketing Manager here in Safetica, and together with Jan Lakatos, Product Manager for Safetica One, we will guide you through the major features and changes that were released in the first half of this year, 2022. Then Jan will follow with a product demo of the major product enhancements to show you how it works in practice. And then I will follow with an introduction to the new features coming out this summer. We will preview the major new features again in a demo, and then I will provide you with a sneak peek at what you can expect later this year. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them using the GoToWebinar platform. We will have also some polls during the webinar to collect your feedback, especially about the new features and enhancements. And also, this session will be recorded, so we will share it with you afterwards in a follow-up email together with the slide deck. Let's start. So let's look at the major features that are already available with Safetica 1.10.2, but also with Safetica 1.10.1 that we released at the end of the last year. And let me very briefly go through the major enhancements. So you know that with Safetica 1, we introduced new file content inspection with OCR. And with the 10.1, we added this new file content inspection also on macOS. What's also new, the OCR module is now configurable per endpoint, and this is especially relevant for, let's say, slower or maybe low performing endpoints, because even though we are working hard to make OCR as less performance demanding, still it's a feature that consumes some of the CPU, obviously. From the protection perspective, we tempered the protection for metadata-based document classification, so we can better prevent users from manually removing the classification labels from documents metadata. And we also added out-of-box templates for Brazilian identity card numbers and South African social identification numbers. Now let's look at the main features and enhancements introduced with Safetica 10.2 in the first half of this year. We added OCR support for secondary language that is relevant, especially to countries with special characters and non-Latin character sets. So let's say, for example, Chinese customers should set primary language to Chinese and secondary language to English. Jan will show you how to configure this properly in Safetica Management Console later. And we also added new OCR languages. Those are Lithuanian and Ukrainian. We improved user experience for forced reboots. Let me show you. We added new endpoint notification that informs users about the need for forced reboot, and the pre-reboot time limit was increased to 5 minutes, so users have now plenty of time to save their work before the restart or reboot of the computer. If you or your customers use multiple SharePoint servers or SharePoint online instances, now you can configure them individually. This is also something that Jan will show you in a demo section. And last but not least, when updating, endpoints are now assigned an order number and will update when it's their turn, so we can load balance the update request. This is optimization relevant especially for large environments. We also use new technology for component downloading to ensure that the connection before the download is established properly. So what other significant improvements we introduced in Safetica 1.10.2? We improved the compatibility with external peripherals. The device control now ignores the non-mass storage devices. That means that if you have any peripheral without storage, for example, headset connected to USB, now it's not anyhow affected by device control. Also in Bluetooth settings and device control, now you can configure separately devices that support file transfer. We also limited the network integration to critical apps only. So that means that the new simplified network integration merges the network integration and SSL inspection. And this especially limits where our network layer is integrated, and in the end, it lowers the chance of any possible technical issues. Also, the integration and SafeTK management console is now set to the compatibility mode by default, and we removed other modes to be set. And we also improved the performance and optimized the WebSafeTK reports generation. So now they consume less memory and are generally faster. What it means for you as a user, basically now you can generate reports in WebSafeTK literally in seconds. So now it's a time to show you the main enhancements in the demo. So let me pass the word to Jan Lakatos.
Hello, my name is Jan too, and I'll be guiding you today through our live demonstrations of the product in the practice. So let me try to show what Jan just described and what is upcoming in the version 10.2. Let me just switch from the presentation to this virtual machine where I have SafeTK 10.2 running. And the first thing I want to touch is the OCR configuration and its secondary language setting that we have just added to the new version. So if I go to protection data categories, you can see here that I have some data categories configured. Within them, I can turn on whether OCR should be run for that certain data category. And here in this section here, you may notice the new configuration for the secondary language. Here I can choose my primary language, which is set to Czechtina, which is the Czech language. I can switch it to English if I want. And if in my company I'm working with multilingual documents and I have some specific signs and symbols that I'm using in my second language, obviously English won't be enough, and I may prefer to turn on a secondary check. So for instance, if I were actually a Czech company working primarily in English, but there would be some Czech documents that I want to touch, I can choose either Czech, or if I'm working, for example, with some Turkish companies and partners, and I have some documents in Turkish language, I can choose the secondary language as Turkish. This configuration that you can see on the screen does something which is very logical. It checks every document which is scanned with OCR twice. It runs first a scan for finding out what is the correct language setting. So it scans the document quickly, decides whether the symbols within the document match either English or Turkish better. And then with that selected language, it scans the document, translates it into text, and then scans the text to find out whether there is sensitive information into that document or in that picture that I'm scanning. Obviously, doing the secondary scan will be performance intensive. It will take a bit longer. Well, a bit means twice as much as before. So in case you don't really use multilingual documents, secondary language is better turned off. But in case you are using a large variety of documents and they are in various languages, feel free to turn this on and increase the protection that you can ensure with OCR in your company. So this is the first setting I wanted to touch on. I guess this demonstration is enough and we can move forward. The second demonstration I want to do today is about the SharePoint protection improvement that we are introducing in SafeTK 10.2. And the SharePoint improvement allows you to impose different protection rules over different SharePoint instances. So we got the feedback from our customers that they are collaborating with other companies, and both of these companies run on SharePoint or Office 365 services, and they share files between each other. And then these files are synchronized to the individual endpoints of the users, and the users actually are mixing data from one SharePoint to the other and vice versa. To get this under control, now with the latest version of SafetyCam, you can easily configure different protection rules for different SharePoints. All you have to do is to put every SharePoint in its appropriate zone, and then configure that zone to be protected with certain rules. Today, I simplified the use cases to be shown, but obviously you can do any kind of magic that you want to set up. You can create different classification rules and impose different protection rules over each classification. Maybe, let's say, if a document is financial, it can only go to this SharePoint. If the document includes personal information, it cannot go to this SharePoint. The configuration is really up to you. What I will show today is a very simple configuration where I have two SharePoints synchronized on this machine. I have one SharePoint instance called SafetyCam demo, which I put into a safe zone. So this is a tenant that I'm using freely, and it's considered secure. The other tenant that I synchronized on this machine is my actual personal account within SafetyCam company. And this one I did not put into the safe zone configuration. So this one should be considered unsafe for specific file types. And for the purposes of this demonstration, it should be blocked. So very easily, I have one machine with two different SharePoints configured. And I'll try to copy this confidential document. Let's try to copy it. And let's try with the safe tenant, the SafetyCam demo one. You can see I already have files here. So let me try a different one. So let's try to copy this PDF. PDF went through. You can see OneDrive is synchronizing this one. Everything seems to be working fine. If I try to upload the same within the same tenant, but to a SharePoint site, I have a SharePoint site here. It's configured. Again, I can easily copy the document and everything works as expected. The OneDrive client is synchronizing the file. If I try to use the same document, but I'll use the other tenant called SafetyCam, and I'll try to copy it here. You can see that this is attempted, there is a security scan, and the file is blocked because this tenant is not considered secure. And the same thing happens if I try to use this product management space within my SafetyCam tenant. The protection will be actually identical. So this is how this works in practice. As I mentioned, you can create a much more convoluted and complicated configuration up to your preferences, but I wanted to show it in a very easy to understand way. Hope I succeeded in that. So this is the second use case. And one more use case that Jan mentioned, and I wanted to highlight today, is something unrelated to OCR, something unrelated to SharePoints, but something related to devices. So let me switch to device control here. And what we did in the latest version is that we worked on our invisivity or intrusiveness into device connections. So previously, you had very easy settings that simply could block all USB devices, all Bluetooth devices. But these days, even myself, I'm working a lot virtually. I use headphones. I have a docking station where I usually connect 3 or 5 different devices. And these devices I need to work. So in order to retain the protection, but allow users to work freely with whatever device, peripheral, or multimedia device they need, we actually reworked how we approach USB devices. And the rework is reflected in this very simple explanation that this setting no longer applies to multimedia devices like cameras, microphones, and headsets. So this is something that won't be affected by blocking, but this blocking USB setting means that any USB drive which allows file transfer will be still blocked. But if I connect a headphone or a mouse or a keyboard or webcam, these will all work as expected. And with the very same logic, we approached Bluetooth. because these days like wireless connections are very plenty of, and actually for Bluetooth we only had a very basic setting on or off. And if you turn Bluetooth off, it was very secure. But if the user wanted to connect a Bluetooth earphone or headphones, they simply could not. So you still have the option to control Bluetooth in all its entirety. But in case you would like to allow users to use Bluetooth however they want, but you only want to protect file transfers that may happen over Bluetooth, now you have this new setting on top of this view, which says Bluetooth file transfer devices. So with this, you can easily control devices which allow file transfers. So if I try to connect my phone through Bluetooth, it will be blocked. But if I have Bluetooth allowed here, or if I don't set it to anything, any other device which does not require a file transfer protocol will be allowed. So this way you can easily allow the usage of keyboards, peripheral devices, but still retain some data security through the Bluetooth connection. So hopefully these are just small iterations over something that we had in the product, but hopefully it makes Safetica less intrusive in your environment and your users more effective in whatever job they need to perform. And I believe that for the 10.2 changes, this is it. So hopefully you liked this very short demonstration, but there is more to come. And with this, I give the word back to Jan, who will tell you more about upcoming features that we are working on right now. So Jan, the word is back to you.
So before we look at the second part, let me ask you a few questions and collect the feedback. It would be great to know what you think. So now in a couple of seconds you should see the Slido on your screen. Please join us either using the QR code or typing slido.com and filling the hashtag Safetica. You should see the several options, and we would like to ask you which features that we just presented you consider as most valuable. Either it's an OCR, let's say, or a secondary language setting for OCR, or improved user experience for forced reboots, support for configuration of multiple SharePoint instances or SharePoint servers, device control that is now not affecting the external devices without the data storage, optimized endpoint updates for large environments, and improved performance and optimization of Web Safetica reports. So let's wait a few more seconds to collect more answers. If anyone else wants to join, just feel free to scan the QR code in the top left corner or type slido.com into your browser, use hashtag Safetica to join our poll. So a few more seconds to wait, but for now it seems that what you consider as the most valuable is the optimized endpoint updates for large environments. Oh, nice. The improved performance of Web Safetica reports also jumped. The improvements of device control not affecting the external devices, and also improved user experience for forced reboots. So thank you a lot. You can see the results on the screen and should be perfectly readable. So thanks everyone for providing your feedback. Let's move forward. So now let me introduce you to the major features and enhancements to be released very soon with Safetica 1 10.3. This is something that you can expect this summer. So I think that the biggest news is that we are finally introducing the macOS DLP, meaning the DLP policies for USB, network paths, for web uploads, cloud drives like Dropbox, OneDrive Personal, OneDrive Business, SharePoint, and also for instant messengers. And we will be adding more channels, but those are the first one that will be available with SafeTK 1 10.3. Together with macOS DLP policies, of course, there are new desktop notifications for users, for end users, so they can be notified. And this is something that Jan will show you again in a demo after these few slides. To get one of the another big news is that we are introducing new SafeTK unified classification, with which we are replacing the invasive context DLP tagging, and in general we are unifying the data classification. I will tell you a little bit more about it in the following slide. With 10.3, you also get bigger content scan result details. This is also something that you will see in the demo. And we are launching new Chrome extension to basically to minimize the intrusiveness of web control and of data flow auditing. And last but not least, there is or will be new Microsoft 365 integration. For now, let's say more on the back end. It uses the latest Microsoft APIs to, and in general, it allows for the more robust security. But it's more important, it utilizes and is prepared for the new SafeTK Cloud Access Security Broker module. This is something that will be announced later this year. And one more information, you can also always decide if you want to use the old integration or the legacy integration, or the new one that will be released with SafeTK 1 10.3. So what's new with the new SafeTK unified classification? Users that are trusted to manually classify or reclassify files can now do that with all file types. This is again something that you will see in a demo. With the new unified classification, now we are able to detect sensitive data or sensitive content also in currently open files. This is again something that you will see in the practice. And if you need to run on-demand classification tasks, you can specify also on which endpoints it should be executed. So let's say you want to execute it or run this task only on those computers that save or send files to network shares for any reason. There is also an option to limit the web application and path tagging to selected endpoints. So when you want to test the new DLP policies in production, but for any reason you don't want yet to affect the whole environment, you can now limit the web application or path tagging only to selected endpoints. And that means that only those endpoints will tag the sensitive files. And finally, we added template for Dutch citizen service numbers and OCR support for Ukrainian. So it was brief, and now it's time to show you the main features in practice again. So again, Jan, the floor is yours.
Hello again. Let's take a look at how the upcoming features of SafeTK look like. What I'll be showing you in the next few minutes is some of it more complete, some of it less complete these days, but we wanted to give you a little behind the scenes insight into what we are working on right now and what you may expect to see in the product in the next few months. So let's take a look at the first of the several machines I'll be showing you today. So the first environment I'm showing is actually my own Mac computer, where I would like to show you a sneak peek of the Mac DLP functionality. SafeTK has been available on Mac computers for quite some time, but we were lacking some of the DLP functionality that you may know from Windows endpoints. And now we have worked several months very intensely to bring as much DLP functionality to Mac as well. So I'll be showing you some straightforward use cases where you can see the Mac client working, but obviously in the version that you will see released, there are even more use cases supported. I just don't want to go into every one of them. So there is even more to come than what you will see today. What I have prepared here is Safari with a file sharing site, and I have some confidential documents in my documents folder. So let's try to upload confidential documents to this file.io site. Okay, this didn't go through. Let's try again. And you can see it didn't go through again, and this time it was actually blocked by Safetica. So you may notice that we are using the built-in notification center of Mac OS, and if I want to, I can see all my notifications in the notification center, and if I expand them, I am seeing a very familiar but slightly nicer view of our Safetica notifications, which inform me about what has just happened and that my upload was unauthorized and blocked. And this was an upload use case. Let's try a different one. I actually have a flash drive connected right now, and I'll try to copy my documents to the flash drive. Let's try. And you can see the document went through because this is a case of a notification policy. So we are supporting logging, notification, and blocking policies on Mac. And you can see again, I can read about what has just happened. File transfer was not secure. It was against my security policy, but this was actually set up in a notification view. So you can see the file went through even though the user was notified about this. Let's delete this because it's confidential still. And let's try some more use cases. Here I have my Dropbox application, my Dropbox synchronized to this Mac. I'm using Dropbox at home, so it's definitely not my business cloud drive. So let's try to see what if I upload a file here. You can see file transfer was blocked. I even got Mac dialog, which is trying to do the copy. So let's try to authenticate with my fingertip. No, it didn't go through. It was really blocked. So even the elevated rights that the system tried to grant me didn't allow this to go through. And again, the notification I can read, this was against the security policy and the file transfer was blocked. So this was one type of a cloud drive, but I'm actually using OneDrive at work. So let's try to copy this to OneDrive. And you can see the file went through. It's being uploaded right now. You can see the synchronization arrow. Now it's synchronized, so it went through to the cloud. And I was still informed about this, that maybe this was not really secure. I was notified, but the file transfer itself was allowed. So hopefully nothing surprising really. It works as expected. As I mentioned in the final version that you will see, there are even more use cases supported. I just don't want to showcase every one of them. We will be supporting network shares. We will be supporting instant messengers and more. And even more will be coming obviously in future releases when we are expanding the functionality as well. So this is about MacDLP. Let's try to switch to a different machine where I will talk a little bit more about classification. So right now I have switched to Safetica, the desktop console, where I'm in data categories. I have an environment here, it's an internal environment where I want to highlight the first two of these categories. One is called context and the other is unified context category. So what we are working on right now is really a long, complicated project to unify our classification into something very simple to use, which is integrated, which is more agnostic about the technology and more focused on the actual use cases that our customers require. And the first phase that you will experience in the product will be bringing a unified context category. Let's try to see what this actually is and what's the difference between the two. If I go into the details here, you can see this is a standard context category. It is using the NTFS tagging technology to flag files and carry classification within the files. You can see the advanced options allow me to switch to an alternative metadata-based classification. Within that, I can even use user classification, but without it, it's disabled. So this is the state today. You may be familiar with this. We actually did the metadata alternative to try and pilot an alternative approach, and it worked well. We got some feedback that user classification is great and super useful, but this technology was always limited to only a certain selected file type. So it didn't really get traction with our customers because the limit of the file types was always a problem. So this was a half-baked alternative that was suitable to some use cases, but it couldn't really replace the NTFS technology completely. The other category that you can see here is actually just the same category switched to this metadata type. So it's the other alternative. But once you update your Safetica version to the future version, which I will be showing you right now, you will see the very same data categories, but the other one, the second one, which was switched to metadata, it's no longer configurable. And this one is automatically migrated to this new unified context category type, which is without any advanced settings, and it just works. The only thing you can set is whether you want to include this specific data category within user classification. You can do that. You don't have to, it's up to you. And let's see what happens with the standard context classification that you may have been using for several years. Basically, nothing. It will work just as it has worked always. You don't need to do anything with it. It will remain supported and it will work as you were used to. However, you will have the new option not to switch it to a metadata type, but you will be able to migrate it completely to a new unified Safetica classification system. And with this, you can just retain your configuration and seamlessly take your classification technology to the next future level. And what this actually allows you to turn on user classification as you can with the other one. And now the user classification will work for any file type. So this is, I hope very good news to all of you who have been asking for data classification, but needed more than just a handful of file types supported. And now what will actually happen if you do this, and if I check this category, I can easily switch it to user classification, and there's no more settings. So I simply switch this for user classification, and now this context category will be written to metadata types if supported. So if I try to classify a Word document, an Excel document, these carry some metadata headers, and we can write classification in that. But if I need to classify an alternative file, a PNG, a text file, a CSV, which don't really have metadata space to write, we will flag them and label them with an alternative new technology, which we will be expanding in the future. But this way you will be already able to transfer your existing context classification and include it with user classification. And this is something that we will build on. So this is a first phase. I hope you got the message, you understand the benefits now, but obviously this is just the beginning, and we will be expanding this unified classification in the future. And our goal is really to get rid of any type of classification as you have to choose here, and just have one unified classification with all the options, and whatever the technology is needed runs, and it works seamlessly across all your computers, all your environments. So hopefully you got a little sneak peek not only in the upcoming version, but even further behind. But you will definitely hear more about this as we go on, and we will be talking a lot about the classification topic with upcoming releases, obviously. One more thing I want to show, not completely related to this, but still on the topic of data classification, is the improved detail of classification results. So with this, I'll switch to my third console here, which includes results of a so-called discovery task. Discovery task means one-time, on-demand, or repeated task which runs on my computers. It looks for files which include sensitive information, and it returns a list of data which are considered sensitive because of their content. So you can see a large list of files. These are actually files from my colleagues. You can see they have them stored on OneDrive or locally on the desktop. Let's try to open the details of one of these. And you can see that this was an Excel spreadsheet with a bunch of identifiers found within that Excel. So this is probably quite a sensitive file. And now with the new version, I can easily see the results, the specific files which were found, the specific identifiers, and even the number of them. So I can quickly assess whether this was a random, maybe false positive match, or whether it was really a sensitive document which includes a bunch of really important identifiers, keywords, regular expressions, whatever you may configure as sensitive. Let's try to open a different one to see a different results. You can see this one slightly less sensitive, fewer matches found here. And let's try to open a zip file, which will be definitely interesting. So in this zip file, not so interesting, only one file within this zip was identified. Let's try to check this one. Again, slightly more identifiers, but not so much. Let's try this zip file. And this is getting more exciting. So you can see I had a single safetyka.zip file, but several files within that zip included sensitive information. This text file had a dictionary match. This other file had another dictionary match. If we go further down, this text file actually included several identifiers, and there were even more text files including more and more identifiers. So this is definitely a dangerous zip file, and I would really check it if I were the admin of this specific environment. The same level of detail you can expect in DLP logs. I just don't want to waste time clicking through views, but this is available not only for on-demand discovery task results, but for any DLP logs that you encounter about files being moved, traveling across the company. So hopefully another good news related to classification. And one more topic I want to cover within the topic of classification is actually the sensitive data scanning technology and the improvement we made within that. And for that, I need to switch to yet another machine where I have two simple files. The files are sensitive because they include the word safetyka according to my configuration. And you can see that if I open them in supported applications, the applications get restricted. So this is a important file. It shouldn't go out of the company. And I set up my safetyka configuration to not only protect outgoing files, but to protect even applications which open sensitive files. So this notepad is already limited. And if I were to either try printing or saving to a USB drive, this would be blocked. Same goes here. This is just a slightly different Word document. Again, it has the word safetyka in it. So you can see Word was automatically limited. I can no longer do screenshots. I cannot copy out of the Word application. And there are limitations over this app. This all sounds great, and it worked pretty well in the past, but we got the feedback from customers that even though we support the major applications such as the Office suite, PDF readers, and various text editors, the selection of the apps was not enough. So they were asking us for adding a specific app, adding a different app, supporting alternative Office suites. But what we managed to do, luckily, is to create a very universal scanning technology that now runs in any application. The only requirement is that the application is integrated within safetyka. And obviously, we tried quite a few of them, but there may be some use cases which we haven't tested yet. So some technical problems may occur, but in practice, it seems it works universally for any application. So even if I try to open this Word document in an alternative Office suite, for instance, in LibreOffice, you can see that once the document opens, it was actually blocked and restrictions are imposed on LibreOffice as well. Same goes for the text file. If I try to open the text file in Notepad++, an alternative text editor, the application is restricted. And one application I definitely know didn't work because I tried it, I've used it, and it never got restricted is Sublime Text. It's a great editor in my opinion. And now it can also be protected by Safetica. So hopefully this is good news to all of you who have been asking for support of a specific app. Now we support all of them. Please just check your integration, whether we are really integrated into the application, and if we are, I'm pretty sure this will work as designed. So this is it. I hope you liked the sneak peek. We are definitely working on more than just these few selected projects, but these were already ready to be demonstrated to a certain extent. So hopefully these were good news. Hopefully you like the demonstration. And with this, I'll just scroll through my machines back to the presentation. And thank you for your time and giving the word back to Jan. Thank you.
So, and there is another time for Paul. We'd like to again like to hear your feedback. So let me start another Slido poll. Again, please join us using the QR code or typing the slido.com to your browser using hashtag Safetica. And we would like to again hear which features that we just showed you consider as most valuable. If it's the macOS DLP, new Safetica Unified Classification, new Chrome extension for web control and auditing, and new Microsoft 365 integration. You can choose multiple options, as you probably already see. Again, very valuable feedback for us, what you are looking most forward to, or what you consider as most valuable enhancements and features. So again, I'll give you a few more seconds. I see that there are some other answers coming. As expected, the macOS DLP, the long-lived awaited, is the most popular one, or the considered as the most valuable. Deeper content scan detail, new unified classification in the third position. Okay, so a few more seconds, and then if no more answers are coming, let's move forward. So thank you everyone for providing us with your feedback. This is again, once as I said, really very valuable for us. And now let's move forward. So we are getting to the end of this webinar, but still let me tell you a little bit more about the major features that are about to be released or announced in the second half of this year. I already gave you a sneak peek and I talked about the new Microsoft 365 integration. So this is something that you will hear us talking about more and more. So the backend, something, the new integration is already there with the new API, but we will also introduce new CASB module that you can look for. And last but not least, we are unifying our console. So there will be one console that you, our current customers and partners, will be able to try this year already. And this one console will be the successor of the current desktop desktop Safetica management console and web Safetica. And the one console will be accessible via browser. So this is something that we will tell you more about in October. So please wait a few more months. We will again invite you to hear more details and to be able to put your hands on. And that leads me to an invitation. If you'd like to beta test our new features, if you'd like to have it first and test it in your environment, you are more than welcome to sign up for beta testing at beta@safetyka.com. We will get in contact with you and tell you more about how you can proceed. So we are getting to the end, and I would like to wrap up the key takeaways of this Safetyka One webinar. So I think that the biggest news, and I hope we can agree on that the biggest news is the macOS DLP, together with the introduction of new Safetyka Unified Classification and new Microsoft 365 integration. And of course, this is something that we continually work on, having our products and our solutions less intrusive as possible, and providing more performance, more and more performance. So we are getting to the end of this presentation, but there is one more poll time, and now I would like to ask you, and this will be an open question, if there is any critical feature or enhancement that you are missing, and those are those that we haven't mentioned yet. So feel free, please, to write your answer in a plain text. Again, it's Slido. Again, you can join using the QR code or slido.com and #Safetyka. It would be great to hear if there is anything else that you are critically missing. Let's share with us. Linux, yes, for sure. This is something that we hear repeatedly. Thanks a lot. It's great to see and hear, and have it here as a proof. So we'll wait. Okay, this seems to be pretty clear. I will give you a few more seconds, and then we will get to the Q&A section. Okay, I see Safetyka Mobile. So this is something that will in fact be exchanged for Cloud Access Security Broker, the CASB module, that will protect all devices that could send data outside, and we will talk about it more later this year. Web Safetyka and Safetyka merged to Web Console. Yes, this is the Safetyka One console. I gave you a sneak peek at the very end of this presentation and the previous slide. G Suite, again, something that we can later cover with the CASB. Let's wait a few more seconds. I see one more participant is typing currently. Anyways, I would like to move forward, but still, if you have anything else that comes to your mind, please write it down using Slido. I will collect your answers and forward it to our product management team. It would be great, and also to have any details. And again, if I see there are any bug fixes, I hope you know our contacts to our support. If you see there something that is not working as expected, feel free to let us know so we can fix it soon in future releases and updates. Okay. So let me close this down, and let's look at the questions that you asked us. I already tried to answer some of those questions on text, via text, but still, the question is, what happens when forced reboot is executed on the computer, but user is away and have not saved their work? Will it wait for user confirmation? So the answer is no. We will do the update. The system will force the reboot. It's similar to Windows-based updates that are scheduled for a specific time. So that will do the same thing. We will reboot the computer anyways. So hello, may I know the roadmap for full DLP support on macOS? So again, this is something that you can expect with Safetyka 10.3, and we will release this in the summer. So let's say in the following weeks. How we can add selected user to Office 365 integration. So I would recommend you to check our knowledge base that you can also get to using support at support.safetica.com or using just visiting just safetica.com. In the knowledge base we have already some explanatory articles, and we will be adding more with the new integration. So when this is released, you will find there some very useful and relevant explanatory articles. Question from Mateusz Novak: does it mean that NTFS classification will no longer be available? So in fact, the NTFS classification will be, let's say, succeeded, or it will be exchanged for the new technology, but from the I don't know the technical details, honestly. I can try to follow up with the answer from our product team, but basically it will work the same. So from the user perspective or customer perspective, they shouldn't see any difference. The question if it's possible to check the RAR file, this is a very good question, and I need to check with the product team. I don't have the answer for it, but I will follow after this webinar. When we are expecting this feature updates, so those with 10.3, again, as I said, you can expect in the following weeks by the end of the summer. Is content classification during opening file will cover limitation due to encryption of the file detecting sensitive content in encrypted data. So honestly, I don't have the answer right now, but again, this is something that I will answer and afterwards in the follow-up. Very thanks a lot for this question. And one last, I see, can Safetica allow clients send a ticket to request administrator allowed send and data temporary? Okay, so if I understand it right, so this most probably, if I understand, this is question about our override feature. So if the end user can temporarily access to proceed with the file operation or with a sensitive data operation and asking the administrator, or so how the current, let me really briefly tell you how the override feature currently works. It works like if you can set the policy for override, that means the end user is notified that he's handling the sensitive data, and if he or she wants to proceed, they need to provide business justification. And if they proceed with this business justification, they can run the task, but the administrator, the admin, is notified. This is feature that will not be that will be introduced for macOS later. I think it won't be as part of Safetica 1.10.3, but you can expect it very soon. I'm not 100% sure right now if it will be if we'll be able to add it also to 10.3 release. So thanks everyone a lot for all your questions, for all your feedback. I have one very last and final poll time plan, and I would once again like to ask you to rate the quality of content of this webinar. This will be done using GoToWebinar. If GoToWebinar lets me run the poll, we'll see if it works or not. Yes, so now you should see the poll. Please rate the quality of the content of the webinar, and in the following poll, I will very quickly ask you to rate also this Safetica 1 product webinar execution. So in the meantime, I will read some additional questions that we received from Vikram Solanki. So we are getting the full support on macOS. Yes, that's correct. Once again, I can confirm. And the last question, if I can share the recording, or if we can share the recording, yes. Latest tomorrow, we will send you the follow-up email with the slide deck and with the webinar recording. And also I'll try to collect the answers to questions that I was not able to answer as soon as possible, and we'll follow up on with them as well. So thanks a lot. I will close the poll. If you'd like to add your evaluation, you are more than welcome. I'll also share the results with you if you wait a second. So thanks a lot. Most of you rate this webinar, the content of this webinar, very good or excellent. Thank you for that. And we will try to raise the score next time. And also, if you will, I would also like to ask you to rate the quality of execution. And this is also very valuable because based on your feedback, we can try to make our webinars more valuable, more relevant for you next time. So I'll give you a few seconds. The evaluation or the rating is very simple, from 1, very poor quality, up to 5, excellent quality. So let's wait a few more seconds. And now let me share results with you, so you know how others evaluated this webinar. Very similar to previous poll. And that's it for today. Thanks once again, everyone, for participation today, and hope that you will join us again probably in October, when we will introduce the big new features and enhancements mentioned today. So thanks once again, and see you next time. Have a wonderful summer.